the more our influence shrinks. The more our influence shrinks, the bigger and more importance that out there has. And as a result of that, our actual lived experience is smaller and smaller and smaller. And so we can do less and less things. We could take our dog to fewer and fewer places. We could have less and less and less connected green zone experiences. So, on the other hand, when we focus on our inner circle of influence, when that's where we put our focus, then we're proactively creating felt safety, connection, and that's when our efforts will make a positive difference.
Hi, I'm Kathy Kowalik, and I believe that our dogs connect us to the heart and soul of what really matters in life. So hang out, and we'll take a deep dive into the human-dog connection and explore strategies that will inspire you to create legendary, enlightened partnership with your dog. This is the Enlightened by Dogs podcast. Well, hey, Kathy Kowalik here, and thank you so much for tuning in to learn more about living in partnership with your dog. So, the last couple weeks, I've been immersed in unpacking reactivity and what's under the surface, how we get stuck in reactivity spiral, and what are the root causes under the surface that pull us and our dogs into that. And of course, how do we get out of that? How do we break free of that? And so I did that in a workshop that I had hosted called Growing Together from Reactive to Remarkable. And it was really cool. It was a really successful event, and we had a lot of breakthroughs, and I love doing it. And the participants got a lot out of it. Now, the entire workshop was a total of about 12 hours of training, learning, and coaching spread out over about a week or so. And I'm going to share a couple of clips from that workshop that I think are really important because the discussion keeps coming up. The topic keeps coming up. The struggle, if you will, keeps coming up. It has for a long time, and it continues to do so. And one of the reasons that this is happening is because our cultural, social learning, what we're immersed in as dog moms, revolves around this idea of behavior training and triggers and avoiding triggers, and it's so confusing and so difficult to break free of this. And I just thought I would pull some pieces out to really feature this topic of avoiding triggers and how it's exactly the wrong thing. It's exactly what we should not be doing, which might be mind-blowing and shocking to you because you've heard me talk for years about creating green zone experiences and setting up for success and doing all we can to create a life of harmony and safe, calm, and happy and all that. And so the reason I brought this topic into the workshop is because I could see a misunderstanding that is a direct result of the myths and embedded misunderstanding about how to break free of reactivity and why reactivity starts in the first place. Okay, so I'm going to share 2 clips from the workshop. Part 1 is leading up to the idea of triggering and thresholds and what our responsibility is as our dog's guide and caregiver and parent and partner. And then in part 2, we're going to talk about specifically, why avoiding triggers is the exact wrong thing to do and what to do instead. All right. So, it's going to be good. I think you're going to love it. I hope it's really helpful. And if you are a member, my Brilliant Dog Foundation Builders, which is my introductory level where we build our foundation, or if you're a member of my Brilliant Partners Academy, which is where we learn and implement all of our pillars of partnership that create our life of attentive responsiveness and respect and cooperation, or my RRI, which is my relationship rehab intensive, where we dive deep into unpacking and healing ourselves and our dogs after being stuck in the reactivity spiral for quite some time. So whether you're a member of one of my programs or you have recently joined us for the From Reactive to Remarkable workshop, or you're just simply a listener of the podcast, these 2 segments are going to change the way you think about your dog and the reactivity spiral and avoiding triggers. Well, at least that's my intention. I hope that that's what you walk away with. All right. So let's get started with part 1 in our 2-part Avoiding Triggers podcast. All right. Let's play this clip.
Being the brilliant leading partner that you are takes responsibility. So it involves taking responsibility, right? And we've been talking about this. And so one of the things we're taking responsibility for is creating a circle of safety and trust so that our dogs can stay regulated and not be concerned with those outside influences. For example, when we walk with them or we take them places or even in the house or in the backyard, right? And so when we are thinking about the possibility of having this circle of influence, it is really powerful and really effective. Okay. And so when we think about the outside, so think about the outside, the external factors that trigger our dogs and us. And we've been talking about this, that those things can like flip our switch into protective mode and pull us into a spiral where our ability to create and maintain that inner circle, that bubble, that like green bubble that I've been showing you, like what happens is the more we are pulled into protection mode and we're spiraling, the more that happens, the less influence we have on ourselves, our dogs, and how we respond to the environment in any given moment. And so that inner circle of trust shrinks smaller and smaller and smaller as the outside concerns get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so here's a drawing that I made a while back to illustrate this. So the blue circle represents the circle of concern. And so these are things that we have little to no control over in our environment, but that have the potential to cause us and our dogs to be reactive when we are under their influence. And so think, things like, wildlife, squirrels, bunnies, other dogs, cats, moving things, whatever, right? And so those are things that for the most part we have little or no control over, right? We just don't. It's just, that's just how it is. And so that's the blue circle. The blue circle represents the stuff that we have no control over, okay, or little. The gold circle in the illustration represents our circle of influence. And this is where we BPs focus on creating connection, felt safety, and of course, that builds up trust and creates our trust bank account. Yeah. And so this circle of influence, the gold circle, contains things that we do have influence over and we have some control over, like ourselves, right? Like our thoughts, like our intention to connect, to be available for connection, our invitation to our dogs to connect with us, right? So we have influence over those things. You see what I'm saying? When we're focused on that outer circle, things we have no influence over, things we can't do anything about or very little about, we are already in protection mode. Let me say that again. When we're thinking about those things that we have no or little influence over, that's a sign that we are already in protection mode. We're likely in the first stage of alert, right? The alert mode, that's the first stage where we're scanning the environment, we're hypervigilant, we're trying to locate the danger that our nervous system and brain now believes exists because we're scanning. And when we're focused on that outside circle of concern, as we're focused on that, the opposite is happening to our circle of influence. In other words, the more we're out there and focused out there, the smaller our actual circle of influence shrinks. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And when that happens, we are quite literally making our world smaller and smaller and smaller, which is just the opposite of what we want, right? And it's crazy. Like, why are we doing that? Why are we repeating things that are having the opposite effect that we want? So can I don't want to pass over this because it's really important. The more we focus on out there, like avoiding things, trying to keep our dogs under threshold, looking out for things, seeing if there's squirrels or another dog or, oh my God, like the more we're out there, the more our influence shrinks. The more our influence shrinks, the bigger and more importance that out there has. And as a result of that, our actual lived experience is smaller and smaller and smaller. And so we can do less and less things. We could take our dog to fewer and fewer places. We could have less and less and less connected green zone experiences. Okay. Does that make sense? So on the other hand, when we focus on our inner circle of influence, when that's where we put our focus, then we're proactively creating felt safety, connection, and that's when our efforts will make a positive difference, right? And so that focusing on what we can actually influence, the only things we can influence, focusing on that is what causes that golden inner circle to expand bigger and bigger and bigger, so that ultimately the outside world that we have no or little control over doesn't really have a significant impact on our felt safety, our connection, and our ability to stay in wizard brain and, be cooperative, attentive, and responsive, and have that experience that we want, right? So, bye bye, reactivity spiral. You see what I'm saying here? I hope that this has the impact on you, on your perspective, on your point of view, on how you'll think about your lived experiences with your dog, that I hope that you have, that it impacts you in a big way, like in a mind, like a brain explosion kind of way, because this is key. It means everything. And now if you look at like yesterday, Wednesday, when we did the coaching and the Q&A session, and now you start to see how I was advising, or if you look in the question post in the Facebook group, and you start to see how I'm responding to the questions, how I'm responding to the struggles that you're involved in, you could see that this is what I'm doing is I am helping you to expand your inner circle of influence and stop putting all that focus on out there, because out there truly doesn't matter. Not really. When once, I mean, we have to get there, right? There's a learning curve, if you will. Yeah. But this is where we're going. Okay. How do we shift from being reactive into being proactive? It's with our intention and our commitment and becoming aware of and changing our hidden beliefs, right? This is our work. This is our work as the loving, compassionate, kind, brilliant dog moms that we are, the loving leaders that our dogs need us to be. That's what we do. We do the work. We do the work because that's how life is, right? We are the one responsible for that. And so when we do the work, our dogs follow along with us. And so this slide was just kind of a reminder about this idea that when you change the way you think about your dog's behavior will change. That's just the natural order of things. Okay. So I just wanted to remind you of that. Okay. So felt safety and connection plus social learning, where we are role modeling, guiding, informing, communicating needs and boundaries, is how we get here. This is how we get here, right? Felt safety, connection, social learning. We are the role model, guide, communicating needs and boundaries. That's how we create this. And this is how we get here, where here being where it's normal for these ordinary things to not be our concern, and where your dog knows that they could rely on you as the trustworthy, regulated, loving leader to make good choices for all of us. Yeah, so it's simply a matter of becoming that person that our dogs love to follow, can easily connect with, and look to for guidance. Okay. It is simply that matter, but harder to actually do. You know what I mean? It's not easy being green. Does anyone want to channel their inner Kermit the Frog? It's not easy being green when being green is not how it's not our default mode. It's not that easy, right? But it's simple. Yeah. Hope that made sense. I don't know. Okay. Fact is, when we overface our current level of an ability to connect, and we overface our current level of resilience and regulation and our partnership skills, that is when we trigger the orange protection mode. We say it again. It's when we overface our current abilities to maintain connection, stay green, or at least not very much into protection mode, just a little teeny bit so we can get back. When we overface our current abilities to do that, that's when protection mode is triggered and reactive type behaviors show up on the surface. Okay. So it's the overfacing. Can I say this again? It's the overfacing. We're asking too much of ourselves and our dogs in this context. We're asking too much. It's more than we can handle. We are not prepared for this, right? We don't know how to, we don't know how to drive a car. And so driving a car on the interstate is a really bad idea. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. It's like, oh, this was too hard for us. This is too hard for you. This was too hard for me. It's too hard for us. Oopsie. Let's recover from this as quickly as we can. Let's get ourselves out of here and figure something else out before the next time. That's as simple as it is, right? Think about that. When it happens, it was just too hard. It was more than our current skill sets, our muscles could handle, right? We just couldn't do it. Our dogs couldn't do it. Okay. And so when that happens, that's what we get, right? We get all this kind of stuff. All right. So this is really important. Does this mean, so Kathy, are you telling me, here's what I'm getting from all of this so far, is that what you're telling me is that we should avoid those things that might trigger our orange zone, that might trigger us into protection mode, right? I'm supposed to avoid these things. Yeah? Wrong. Absolutely, flat out, no, that is not it. Why? Why is it not the thing that I'm communicating with you? Well, let's unpack it, shall we?
All right. So that unpacking is going to happen on next week's episode. We're going to dive into the details and the what to do instead. It's going to be really good. So start to implement what we talked about today, and then join me next week where we take it to the next step. All right. All right, my friend, this is what I have for you today. Whew. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great week with your puppers. And I will see you next time. In the meantime, be brilliant. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. And hey, if you would like to work with me so that I can help you discover the missing pieces you need so that you and your dog can finally be happy and enjoy life together, then head on over to dancingheartsdogacademy.com and request your invitation to join us in the Brilliant Partners Academy when the doors open for the next enrollment. See you next time, and remember, a brilliant partnership with your dog makes your whole life brilliant.